cut all your pieces and make sure you've clipped all notches and punched or thread your drill holes. You need about 6 by 1.5 inch fuse to go at the back of your base and 2 fuse to go into your welds. Your double jetted pocket or weld pocket has 2 welds. We are going to apply 2 fusing to the wrong side of the weld. Now check to see that there are no fusing coming out or showing on the right side. Clip them off. Make sure that the edges are clean. Okay. Trim off all excess fuse that may be showing on the right side of your fuse. Trim off all excess fuse that may be showing on the right side of your weld. Make sure that all the edges are clean with no threads or fuse. Okay. Now we are going to fold our welds into 2. Wrong side to wrong side, match all edges, fold it in half. Okay. Press it flat. Same thing applies to your other weld. Press it in half. Make sure that you're matching all the edges and press it flat. Find the drill holes on your base and connect them with a straight line. So we're going to draw a straight line from drill hole to drill hole. Okay, make sure that the line is about 1 inch longer on both sides. Okay. Now we're going to measure the width of our pocket on the line. We know our pocket width is about 5 inches. So the drill hole to drill hole is 4 inches, so I'm going to go 1/2 inch on each side of the drill hole. This should give you the width of our pocket, which is 5 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to match the edge of my welt to the line. So I'm going to match it right on the line, centering it to the drill hole. Okay. So make sure that the distance from the new drill hole line to the edge is equal on both ends. Okay. Okay. You can take out your drill hole threads at this moment. After matching the edge of our welt to the line, we are going to transfer the new drill hole line onto the bottom welt. So I'm just going to mark and extend my line onto my welt. And I'm going to stitch in the middle of my welt from the new marked drill hole line to the end of it. Please make sure that you're stitching right in the middle of your welt, okay? If you cannot eyeball it, please mark the center of it with a ruler, okay? It's about 1/4 inch in the middle of the welt. So I'm going to start a stitch away from my marked line. I'm going to go in 2 stitches and I'm going to go back 3 stitches. This is to make sure that our last stitch is fine. I'm going to stitch right in the middle of it. I'm going to stitch to my new drill hole line, and I'm going to back tack on it. Make sure you go back a few stitches before you back tack, okay? So that our last stitch is very fine. Please clip all excess threads. Okay. So now our bottom welt is stitched. We're going to stitch our top welt as well, okay? So now I match the raw edges of my welts, both the top and the bottom, right? And I'm going to extend my new drill hole line onto my top welt, okay? Where my last stitch ended on the bottom welt, I'm just going to extend it to my top welt. Same thing on this side. After marking the new drill hole lines, I'm going to attach the top welt. Again, stitching right in the middle. I'm going to start a stitch away from my line. I'm going to go in 2 stitches and go back 3 stitches. Okay. Please make sure that the raw edges are kissing, right? There's no gap in between it. I'm going to stitch right in the center of my top welt. So I stitch to my new drill hole line, and then I go back about 4 or 5 stitches and I back tack, okay? Please clip all excess threads. Okay. Now, after attaching both the bottom welt and the top welt, we're going to check our corners to see if our last stitches are matching. So I know that our last stitches are both on the same line. You have to also check the other side to make sure that your last stitches are all matching. Okay. After checking to make sure that our last stitches are matching, we'll have to cut through our base right at where the 2 edges of the welt are meeting. Okay. So we are going to cut to about 1/2 inch before our last stitches on both sides of the welt. Okay. So please move your seam out of the way so that the base is visible to you. Okay. Okay. So we are going to cut the base to 1/2 inch before our last stitches, which is here. And we're going to cut from there to our last stitch, okay? So from here to our last stitch on both sides of our welt, okay? Get the seams out of the way so that you can see your last stitches, okay? So you're cutting to here and then clipping from there to here, there to our last stitch to create a V. In order to cut through the base, I'm just going to fold it in half, right in the center of it. I'm going to give it a clip. Okay, make sure that the top and the bottom are matching so you're not cutting through your welt. Okay. So I make a clip through it like a hole. And I'm going to clip to 1/2 inch before our last stitches, right? And then right from the 1/2 inch, I'm going to clip from there to our last stitch. Make sure you get as close as possible but not cutting through the thread, okay? So I'm going to clip to 1/16 before our last stitch, or 2 threads before. Same thing on the other side, okay? I'm going to continue our cut to 1/2 inch before our last stitch. Okay, get your seams out of the way, and I'm going to clip to 2 threads or 1/16 before my last stitch in the corner, okay? Make sure there are no extra threads coming out of that side, and clip to your last stitch, okay? Now that we've made a hole through our base, we are going to push our 2 welts through that hole, okay? So I'm just going to push the corners of both welts through the hole, okay? Pushing the top and the bottom, okay? Both sides. So everything goes in. Push also the V's in, so the V's and the 2 sides of the welt all go through the hole, okay? Okay, now our welt is forming. So we need to make sure that the top part of the welts are all kissing, okay, and straight. Okay. Make sure that the angle here on the side and the base is at a 90-degree angle. Make sure that the top part and the bottom part of your welt is kissing, and the corners or the sides of the welt are at 90 degrees. Now we are going to tack both sides of the welt to hold it in place. So we check to make sure that the top welt and the bottom welt are both kissing and straight. We also check the corners to make sure that it's a 90 degrees to the bottom line. Also make sure that the welts are not overlapping and they are kissing right to the end of it. So I'm going to lift the side of our base, and I'm going to check to make sure that the extra sides of the welt is also in line. Okay, there's no gap in between, or there's no overlap here. Okay, so I check to make sure that it's flat and it's straight. And I'm going to put my V onto it, okay? Now we are going to stitch in the groove on the V right in line with the folded side of the base. So right in this line. Please get as close as possible. Just don't catch the sides of our base, okay? We are only tacking on the V. So I'm matching my needle to the side of my folded base, and I'm just giving it a tack, okay? Make sure you don't catch the side. You're only tacking the V side, okay? So my pocket corner is straight. There's no overlap. There's no gap in between it. It's kissing right in the corner of it. Okay. So same thing on the other side, okay? Make sure that the 2 welts are in line and they are both kissing, okay? Make sure that it's flat, and if there are any folds, just push it in, okay? Always check to make sure that everything is flat and clean before you stitch, okay? I'm going to push my welt sides out, okay? Put my V on. Again, check to make sure that it's flat before you stitch, okay? So we're going to again stitch in the groove of the V in line with the folded side of our pocket. So I'm going to match my needle to my side of the folded base, okay? Not catching the base itself. I'm only tacking on the V, okay? So you can run about 3 or 4 tacks on to just hold it in place. Now check the corners to make sure that all sides are clean. And the top part of your welt and the bottom part of your welt are missing, and also both sizes are even. So this is supposed to be a 1/4 inch. The top part is also a 1/4 inch. If one is bigger than the other, it means you stitched something wrong and you will have to redo it. After tacking the corners, make sure that the corners are straight and they are all clean. There's no pull on either corners of the welt. Also check to make sure that the size of your top welt and your bottom welt are even. One is not bigger than the other. Now we are going to give it a nice press to open the seam at the top and the bottom, and making sure that the edges are meeting at all times. Okay, so I'm going to give it a nice press. After pressing your pocket, check to make sure that the center is in line and also kissing. Okay, check the back to make sure that all the seams are moving in the right direction, and it's also flat at the back. Okay, clip all excess threads. Now we are going to attach our facing to our pocket bag. Check to make sure that the top part of your facing is matching the top part of your pocket bag. There are 2 notches on your pocket bag. Please make sure that you're matching the serged bottom to those notches, okay? Check to see that the sides are all straight and in line. Now I'm going to run a stitch on top of my serge line right in the middle of it. Okay. You can back tack if you want, and run a stitch right in the middle of it. Clip all excess threads. Now we are going to attach our pocket bag to our double welt pocket. So I'm going to flip the pocket, and I'm going to place the top part of our pocket bag onto our welt, matching the top edge to the top edge of our welt. Okay, so it has to be in line. Check to make sure that the sides are also even. Okay. All right, so the top part of our pocket bag should match the top part of our top welt. Okay, should be in line. Okay. Now I'm going to hold our top welt and our bag together. I'm going to move the top part of our base away so I can see our stitch. Again, check to make sure that it's in line, right? And now we are going to stitch right on top of our previous stitch. So I'm going to start from the end of our welt. Okay, I'm going to use the folded edge as my guide, but not catching it, right? So you can get it out of the way if you want, okay? Or use it as a guide to stitch straight. Okay, I'm stitching right on top of our previous stitch. Okay, make sure you're stitching right on top of it. And run it to the edge, okay? So our facing is attached to the top part of our welt. Okay. Now, same thing. We are going to attach the bottom part of our pocket bag to the bottom part of our bottom welt. Okay. So I'm going to match it, make sure that the sides are even, and also make sure that the edges are even. Okay. Hold the bottom welt and your pocket bag together. All right. Move the base out of the way. And we are going to stitch on our previous line to hold both the welt and the bag together. Please make sure that the edges are matching and the sides are also matching. Okay. So I'm going to start from the end using my folded base as my guide. So I'm going to start from the end using our folded base as our guide. Please do not catch it. Right, remember you're only stitching the welt and the pocket bag, okay? You can move it out of the way if you want, okay? Or use it as your guide for clean stitch. So I'm going to stitch right on top of our previous stitch. Make sure it's on top and not in or out of it. And straight. Alright. So we did not catch the sides of our base. Okay, we only stitched on the previous stitch to hold both the welt and the pocket bag together. So now that our pocket bag is in place, we're going to move the sides of our base out of the way, okay? And we're going to pull the pocket bag down, because if we do not pull it, as you can see, the sides are folding up and it's going to catch in our stitch. So we're just going to pull it down, right? To make sure that there's no excess bag being caught up in our stitch. Okay, so I'm just gonna push it down flat. Okay. So now we are going to stitch the side of our pocket bag to close it. Okay, so I'm going to start from the top, back tack, and I'm going to go onto our tack in our triangle. Okay, when you're about an 1/8 past that tack, we're going to move the self out of the way and we're going to stitch down. Okay, this seam is about 3/4 to the edge of our pocket bag. Okay. Now when you're about a 1/16 or 1/8 to the end or last stitch before, stop. Back tack once, run a chain stitch. Okay. This is to make sure that the corner of the bag does not pull up. Okay. So you can clip some of your threads off. Okay. So the right side of our pocket bag is closed. We're going to move on to the left side. Okay. Again, fold the side of your base away from the pocket bag so that it's visible to us. Okay, I'm going to pull down our pocket bag to make sure that there's no excess pocket bag being caught up. So please pull it down. Okay, make sure it's flat. And we know our seam allowance here is 3/4. So I'm going to start 3/4 onto the pocket bag. I'm gonna stitch twice, back tack. Okay, I'm gonna stitch straight, right onto my triangle tack. Okay, you can move yourself out of the way so you do not catch it at your stitch. Okay, so I'm stitching right onto the triangle tack, and you can back tack. Okay, now clip all excess threads. Always make sure that your work is clean. Okay, now check to make sure that your pocket is clean. Check the inside to make sure that there's no bag being caught up, right? It's all straight and even. Okay. Now we are going to run a base stitch underneath our pocket to make sure that our welt does not open up. Okay, so I'm just going to lift our self out of the way. Okay, I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to match my top welt to my bottom welt. Okay, I'm going to overlap it about a 1/16. Okay, right there. Right, make sure that it's slightly on top of your top welt. Make sure that it's slightly on top of your top welt. Okay, about a 1/16 up. And I'm going to fold it flat and gently base on our previous stitch. Okay, please change your stitch length to about 4. So I'm going to start about 1 inch in, and I'm going to finish about 1 inch before our side seam. Check again to make sure that the edges are kissing before you base it. Okay. Okay, no back tack. Just clip your threads. Okay. And check to make sure that the welts are all kissing. Okay, so now our pocket bag is closed, and they should be able to hold it in place. If the pieces are being shipped or anything, it does not interact with our welt. Okay, it just holds it in place flat. So now press it, search the 3 sides of our welt. After pressing and serging our pocket, please make sure that you clip all excess threads on your piece. Now we're just going to run a tack on each side of our welt to hold it in place. Okay. Now I'm going to start from the top corner to the bottom corner of our welt, right on the edge of our base. Okay, so we're not stitching on the welt. We are only stitching on our self, but right at the edge. Not an edge stitch, literally right on the edge of our pocket sides. Start from the top. Okay, please make sure that your stitch is on 2.5. Okay, tack once, okay, right on the edge, top to bottom. Okay, repeat the same thing on the left side of your welt. Okay, so This side is tacked. This is to hold it in place so that when there's pressure being enforced on the welt, it does not rip the corners. Okay. I'm starting from the bottom corner and I'm stitching right on top of ourselves on the edge of it. Okay, so I'm not going onto the welt, I'm only tacking on the self. Okay, give it about 4 to 5 tacks. That should hold the corners in place. Okay. After tacking the corners of our welt, please check to make sure that our threads are clipped and our double word pocket is ready.